Happy evening. I've always believed a doctor must be felt even before you see the doctor. The clinic has to have an energy, the hospital has to have an energy. The moment I walk in, that entire place should be vibrating with enthusiasm. Just looking at that environment, I should feel semi-healed even before the doctor starts attending to me. If doctors can be enthusiasm on the move, energy on the move, this world will be so much more a happier place to live in. That's why I started my speech as happy evening. So I just want a reciprocation from all of you with a little more energy. Happy evening. Okay, that's about 25% of you. I'll revisit happy evening few minutes later. I will not even touch on all the subjects that's part of this convention. I have no right to speak about them. One of the complaints I have about our country is we tend to believe because a person is good at one thing, they can be good at everything, which is not true. So we ask a scientist to become a president, we ask finance minister to become a prime minister, we ask an actress to become a chief minister, we ask a cricketer to become member of the parliament, and we put the country into mess. Who am I to speak on science and who am I to speak on fields of specialization? In fact, I really wish if there is one thing I didn't hear today, the word chief guest so many times, because sitting there was actually a humbling experience. I have to quote two experiences that I've had to validate how humbling it was. I edit a magazine called Infinitheism, and I used to personally write a column called My Salute. So I used to go and interview a lot of these people, not about the results they produce in life, which can be checked on the website, but I wanted to understand the thought process of people, how they think, what are their value system, how they deal with sex in life, the human being behind the hero we all know. And I used to write this column only interacting with their thoughts and feelings. So I had gone to meet Professor K.V. Thiruvengadam, KVT, and I introduced this entire concept to him. By then I would have done at least 40 interviews, and every time I went to meet anybody, even if I had a 2-hour appointment with them, because this was an opportunity for them to speak about themselves, they used to speak for 6 to 8 hours. For the first time I went and met Dr. Professor KVT, and he said, if you want me to speak about the dignity of the profession of doctors, I'll speak about it. If you want to speak about myself, I will not speak a single sentence, I'm sorry about it, because my profession is greater than any individual. Normally I can persuade people, but I could not convince him at all. My second experience was with your own Dr. S.S. Badrinath. Appointment and all was fixed. We all went, we sat in front of him, and he said, if this article can be about the institution called Shankar Netralaya, I will speak. If it is about me, I will not, because I am nothing without my team and I am nothing without this institution. And I could not get him to speak a single word about it. Knowing that you are part of such great people, scientists, people who have invested years and years in research and development, I would not even get into the subject. In fact, some of the words I've heard today, I will go and Google it in the night to find out what it means. But let me stick to what I am good at and I can speak about. First, I want to congratulate all of you, because during the times of Gautama Buddha, there was this village where there was this visually impaired person, and he used to argue with everybody. There is nothing called colors. A lot of people used to go and try to convince him there is something called colors. And nobody could convince him because he held on to his standpoint. There is nothing called colors. And he had seen, so he was visually impaired from birth. One of those times, Gautama Buddha was passing through that village. So all the villagers went to Gautama Buddha and told him, he holds you in the highest regard. Anything you say, he will not argue. So can you just come and convince this person, colors actually do exist? And they brought this person to meet Buddha. And the man started the first sentence to Gautama Buddha saying that, I know colors do not exist. Can you convince the rest of them that colors do not exist? In that very breath, the rest of the villagers told Gautama Buddha, but you know colors exist, so can you convince him colors exist? Buddha closed his eyes, moved into silence, and did not speak a word for a few minutes and left that place later. As he walked away reasonably, quite a distance from this visually impaired person, they all went and asked Buddha, why didn't you convince him? And Buddha said, the focus right now is not whether colors exist or not. The focus is to feel compassionate towards a man who has not seen colors and ask ourselves this question, can we do something about it? Can we help him? All of you here, Buddha would have been so happy to know that people like you are there to help such people. So I feel even more humble in front of all of you who will preserve and protect and in certain cases renew the vision of people. One of the reasons I wanted to speak here is I keep asking myself this question. If Dr. Badrinath only remained a great doctor but did not develop the leadership skills within him, he couldn't have built this institution. He couldn't have put this amazing team together. And without an institution and without a team, so much good could not have happened to the world. Now, all the academic capabilities that we develop, all our passion towards our fields of specialization will empower all of us to keep learning most and more in our fields of specialization. And our academics is never going to cultivate the leadership within us. So if we only move from being a student to a doctor, to a specialist, to an expert, to a professor, people we need of that tribe, no doubt about it, and do not cultivate the leadership abilities within us, a lot of you will remain one-man army. And as a one-man army, the size of impact you can create in the world, the magnitude of empowerment that you can create, the numbers that all of them were speaking about, nothing is going to happen unless a few of you sitting here can also grow into institutions. And not just individually capable people. Nothing great in the world can happen without infrastructure. In fact, as she was speaking and she said, she comes with a lot of amazing projects. I have to helplessly say no to her for want of funds. For a minute, I closed my eyes in silence and truly released this thought. I really wish we are able to build a world of abundance where no good idea ever has to die for want of funds. I really wish our three sponsors are able to grow into multi-billion-dollar companies and ensure a lot more good in the world can happen through them and because of them. And it needs a lot of you to evolve. We keep hearing about universities, colleges, and all these infrastructures came because some engineer, some doctor, some professor, some artist did not stop at being that, but they went on to develop the leadership skills within them, and thus were capable of building great institutions. Many of you are young, you're at the early start of your career, and you have to look beyond just being a good doctor. You should be, but beyond that, 3 books have been written. Without the help of a good publication house, a few hundred or a few thousand people will read those books. It's not some of the books that are being sold in the world, millions of copies, are better books than this. These books will actually help the world a lot more than many of those books. But if these books do not reach the hands of good publishers, within these symposiums and within these conventions, it's like selling vegetable to a vegetable vendor. We will sell this book amongst ourselves, we'll distribute amongst ourselves, and it may not even reach the hands it should reach. So anything great that has to happen to the world, anything good that has to happen to the world, requires infrastructural development, requires funds, requires mobilization of resources, requires team development, and requires some of you to evolve into leadership material. Dr. Abdul Kalam himself acknowledges, if I had just remained a scientist in ISRO, the amount of impact I could have in this country I would have never had. And I could because I became the president of the country. I was able to use the institution of government to reach out to the world. So which means even that scientist was able to impact the world to the extent he could impact the world, because he recognized the importance of developing the leadership within him. So my call to all of you is not to speak a syllable on any of those subjects where we have the masters, the professors, the gurus, the living scientists to address on, but just to call out to you, develop a mental philosophy within yourself that keeps reminding you, I'm here for something much, much bigger than just this. It all starts with the dream, it all starts with the belief. It starts with the other vision, not the physical vision. It starts with that psychological vision, where somewhere deep inside you have to convince yourself, this is not where I belong. The size of my impact has to be such. It has to be legendary, it has to be historic, it has to be monumental. And it starts with the mental philosophy where you convince yourself, I'm not just here to be lost as one more doctor in a crowd of doctors. I'm not just here to be another statistical entity. Something much, much, much more than that. The actual designers, engineers, architects, people of extraordinary precision who makes the Titans possible, who makes the iPhones possible, are not the people who are ever going to be invited here. the leaders who can mobilize all of them to get the best out of them are the ones who are going to be invited, and they are always part of the presidium. So expand your mental philosophy to believe that you're here for much bigger things in life. Even when you're going through this entire convention, learn, absorb, pick up triggers, never go into this monotony. The challenge in being a convention like this is, maybe the first speaker does not magnetize you. The first professor tomorrow may not impact you. Not because he is not good. Being good in the subject is slightly different from the ability to teach the subject. There's a slight difference there. But somewhere if you go into this monotony where you start liking about talking to each other, semi-distracted state, and you might have the end speaker of the day who might have the value proposition that you actually require, a piece of knowledge which can change the direction of your specialization. So somehow go through this entire experience keeping the student within you alive. And to me that's a mental philosophy. I am not going to lose the student within me even for a moment during this entire convention. And we need this mental philosophy sometime. For example, for somebody like me who keeps traveling all the time, sometimes you lack the motivation when you wake up in the morning to push your body, to exercise. Sometimes it's ironical to see doctors themselves not taking care of their health. So how do you motivate yourself? I woke up at 3:15 this morning in Pune, landed in Chennai here. So how am I going to take care of my body today? How am I going to push myself? I hold a mental philosophy very close to my heart. If you're tough on yourself, life will be easy on you. If you are easy on yourself, life will be very tough on you. So it's better that you are tough on yourself. So somewhere during those moments when I feel I want to steal an extra sleep, get tempted by a burger or a French fry, and not that all that does not happen. Sometimes I feel it's okay. One day by skipping exercise, nothing is going to happen. And when all these lower thoughts within me is trying to pull me down, what helps me to rise in those moments is that I have a few mental philosophies, certain values, certain principles which are not available for negotiation. They are not compromised under any circumstances. We couldn't convince that man to speak about himself. He said, I will only speak about the institution, not about myself. We couldn't convince Professor KVT to speak about himself. He said, I'll speak about the profession of doctors, not about me. And during these times, when fame lures them, when reputation lures them, when they can make the cover page of the magazine, how are they holding themselves? Because they hold certain philosophies, certain values, which guides them during those moments. So then it's not difficult for me to push myself in those moments. So 7 mental philosophies, not much, is all I wish to share with all of you. 7 mental philosophies which I have seen has built ordinary individuals into extraordinary leaders who did much more than anybody anticipated them to do in their lives. 1, expect more from myself. One of the human curse is our expectations are always directed extroverted. Introvert them. I will expect more from myself. We expect from government, we expect from relationships, we expect from families, we expect from God. You will sit there and expect from People who conduct the session will expect cooperation from you. But my expectations from you is not something I can control. I can expect, but I don't have control over it. The only expectation I can control is the expectation I have over myself. The starting point of excellence is I will expect more from myself. I will surpass my own expectations. I will surpass the expectations of the world all the time. When Jesus Christ said, if they ask you to walk a mile, walk 2. Always go the extra mile. I don't think he was speaking spirituality. He was speaking management philosophy. In everything, go the extra mile. Deliver more than what is expected. Surpass expectations. The standards you hold for yourself must always be higher than the standards the world expects of you. Don't do it because SS expects. Do it because these are the standards you hold yourself responsible for. Don't do it because you took this oath when you became a doctor. Do it because you expect more from yourself. So the first leadership thought, the first leadership gateway, the first leadership mental philosophy is, I will always expect more from myself. And from everything. Rather than begging the world to appreciate you, never miss an opportunity to appreciate others. When the convention is going on, don't come like a spectator and walk back like a spectator. Any session makes a difference. Go to the professor, find them outside. Never be inhibited to do what is right and what is good. Go to them, volunteer and tell them, Professor, it made a lot of difference to me. Thank you so much. Each one of them are here not because they want to receive something, but they want to give. Recognize that intent. Never miss an opportunity to go and express yourself wherever you find good, wherever you find that is right. And this is true with everything. If you're part of a team of 25 people, tell yourself, I'm going to emerge the best. You got to be the best. You want Krishna in your life, then you got to be Arjuna. What do I mean? Arjuna was the best Kshatriya in the Kurukshetra. God himself prefers to be next to the best than anybody else. So strive to be the best. I will expect more from myself. A father used to always read a newspaper, and this was his daily habit at the end of the day. And he had a 6-year-old daughter who kept persisting, Dad, play with me, but he was interested only in reading the newspaper. And you know, children are very adamant. Just then the father saw there was a full-page advertisement of an international courier company and the world map was printed there. The father came up with situational brilliance. He tore the sheet of paper from the newspaper, tore it into multiple pieces, scattered it all over the floor, and he said, "This is your jigsaw puzzle. Assemble the world map properly and then I will play with you." And he continued to read the newspaper. To his astonishment, within 10 minutes, the child assembled the entire world map, called out to Dad and said, "See," he was shocked. He knew his own IQ levels. So seeing that this child has done this, he believed it must be a genetical skip. Looking at his expression of shock and surprise, the little one said, "Dad, I know why you are so shocked, but let me tell you, when you were tearing the newspaper, I saw there was a face of a man on the other side. Dad, I don't know where Mexico should be, where Ghana should be, where Russia should be, where New Zealand should be, where India should be. But Dad, I know where forehead should be, where nose should be, where eyes should be." And it seemed the child said, "Dad, I got the man right, the world became right." And this is the only solution. Rather than expecting the world should become right, the world should live up to my expectations, you get yourself right and you live up to your own expectations. And there's a very different life you will begin to live from there onwards. So what do I do after I expect more from myself? Mental philosophy 2. I will align myself to the highest work ethic. Work ethic cannot be a HR policy. You can't do something because there is a policy in the hospital. You have to be driven from within. From hygiene to meticulousness to excellence to empathy, a tone of love in your voice, a happy expression in your eyes. In fact, most people should forget their pain when they come within the vicinity of another human being, especially a doctor. And this does not come because there is a book which says 5.1 policy this, 5.1a. It has to come from within. I will align myself to the highest work ethic. And you have to evolve this over a period of time. What is making a 90-year-old professor who is a father to most of you, a guru to most of you, still sitting there with his spine erect, dressed better than modern day children will dress for their wedding reception? Now what some philosophy told him to do that, these are standards he has set for himself. Nothing less than that. I will align myself to the highest work ethic. Long time back in the United States of America, a set of people were working by the railway tracks when they still had the typical system where tracks were laid. Wood used to hold the tracks together like we have it here. A train came by and a real life incident. The first was at least a story. This is a real life incident. A train came, all the workers moved to the side, and the train, instead of going, stopped. There was only one air-conditioned coach in the train. The door opened, a man peeped from there and screamed out to one of those workers, daily wage workers, "Hey Dave, come inside." Dave Anderson, who was one of those workers, went inside the air-conditioned coach. For the next 30 minutes, there was laughter, boisterous noise, and 30 minutes later, Dave Anderson came out. The man from inside waved his hand and the train passed. The fellow workers went to Dave Anderson and said, "Who is that man who stopped the train from an air-conditioned coach, knew you by name? Who is that man?" Dave Anderson told his fellow workers, "You didn't recognize him? He's Mr. Jim Murphy, the chairman of American Railroad." They became even more curious. "How come the chairman of American Railroad knows you?" Dave Anderson said, "Oh, 20 years back, both of us came to work on the same day for American Railroad, and both of us were doing the same job." They become even more curious. 20 years ago, both of you are doing the same work. Today is the chairman of American Railroad and you're still doing the same work. What do you think is the difference? And Dave Anderson said, "Oh, 20 years ago, I came to work for $1.75 an hour. Jim Murphy came to work for American Railways, and that made all the difference." For me, $1.75 was focus. I was working for American Railways was a byproduct. For Jim Murphy, working for American Railways was a purpose. Money was a byproduct, and the difference. And this cannot be implanted through policies. It has to come from deep within you. 21 years I have been doing what I'm doing. We have done program across the world. First time, of course, I'm addressing doctors. This is my inaugural address of doctors. And in all the 21 years, not a single program of mine, and talking on an average about 5 programs per week, not a single program of mine in 21 years has either got cancelled or started late. Everything has started on time and nothing has been cancelled. And it was not difficult to get the world to adapt themselves to you, adopt the value system you believe in. And this comes from deep within. I would urge all of you sitting here to align yourself to the highest work ethic. First, I will expect more from myself. 2, I'll align myself to the highest work ethic. 3, I'll back it up with relentless, intelligent effort. Even effortlessness can be achieved only through effort. If you ever see somebody is able to do something effortlessly, trust so much effort has gone behind for them to reach that level of effortlessness. He could have taken his presentation casual. It was so humbling when he came and spoke. He has collected all the data and pictures of the entire evolution, made a PowerPoint presentation and brought it here, and there was an effort behind that. So if you're experiencing excellence here, there is an effort behind that. I'll back it up with relentless, intelligent effort. I'm using the word intelligent here because you have to evolve. Every today of a human being has to be better than your yesterday. Of all the creations of God, man alone, even if one breath is still left in you, can improve upon himself. Socrates asked for a book to be read on the last day of his life, knowing very well he has to drink poison the next morning. The security guard in the prison asked him, "You're going to die tomorrow. Why will you want to read a book today?" And Socrates said, "So that I can die more intelligent tomorrow." Nobel Prize winner and Professor Chandrasekhar should have got a Nobel Prize when he was only 27. Yet, for whatever reason, it did not happen. He got his first Nobel Prize only at 70 for astrophysics. And he was asked, "Do you think justice has been delayed? What you should have got at 27 has come to you only at 70. And Professor Chandrasekhar said, "I'm glad it got delayed. Because if I had got the Nobel Prize when I was only 27, I would have started enjoying my position in science and stopped enjoying science." Because I didn't get the Nobel Prize, till 70 I was able to enjoy science. And now see, ever since I've got the Nobel Prize, I have not gone back to a laboratory. I'm only giving media interviews. And this is one challenge I have seen with a lot of successful people. Success makes you enjoy your position in the game, and you stop enjoying the game itself. You become administrator of the game and you don't enjoy the game anymore. That means you stop learning. You stop growing. There cannot be a day that you hit the bed without having learned something new, without improving yourself. It need not be in your field of specialization. It can be anything. Human being alone as an evolving consciousness has been bestowed with this ability that every today of mine can be better than yesterday, and every tomorrow of mine can be better than today. Keep striving with every breath of yours. I will back it up with relentless, intelligent effort. Now, when you expect more from yourself, 1, when you align yourself to the highest work ethic, 2, when you back it up with relentless, intelligent effort, 3, does it guarantee you will always succeed? You will succeed most of the times, but you will also have setbacks. One of the challenges in our education system is we are always told to succeed, 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 but nobody teaches us how to deal with failures. And if you don't have a mental philosophy to deal with failures, you will not have resilience, you will not bounce back in life. There can be setbacks, there can be mistakes. It need not be with the patient. It can be with an approach, it can be with a strategy, it can be with an expansion, it can be with deployment of funds, it can be a relationship issue that I have with a colleague in the organization, in the hospital. It can be, I didn't communicate to the patient the way I should have communicated to the patient. It could be that I have a lot of scope to improve on the quality of my communication. So 5 and 6. 4 and 5 is 4, treat every success as motivation. Do not allow it to feed your ego. The sheer burden of your ego will stop you from progressing. Treat every success as motivation. Let it get you excited to do a lot more than what you have already done. Do not allow it to feed your ego. And 5, treat every setback as maturity gained. Do not see that as a failure. Otherwise, it will dampen your spirits. Nobody in the field of science can ever see anything as a failure, because in science there is no failure. In science there are experiments, and experiment by the very word means I still don't know what will be my results, but whatever are my results, I will use those results to advance my research. So 4, treat success as motivation and do not allow it to feed your ego. And 5, treat setbacks as maturity gained and do not view them as failures. 6, integrate your personal good to the larger good. It will be foolish to tell anybody from the modern contemporary generation that you should be a renunciate, you should not have personal aspirations, you should not have personal desires. A lot of people say people like Buddha and Christ did not desire anything in life, but when they lived, they didn't have the toys that you have. They didn't have iPhones, they didn't have smartphones, they didn't have the cars that you can drive. In fact, they didn't have enough toys to desire. You live in a very different world. It will be foolish to tell you do not have personal aspirations, but it will be beautiful if all of you can master a very simple mental philosophy. I will integrate my personal good to the larger good. Anything I do will not only satiate my individual desires, but I will also ensure it will contribute to the larger good. That means every time I lift myself, in the process I will ensure, like in the Vedas, there is a beautiful expression. It says, lift yourself so that you can lift others. If you stay in the 3rd rung of the ladder, then you cannot lift anybody to the 4th rung of the ladder, because you become a bottleneck. But if I can lift myself to the 4th and the 5th and the 6th rung of the ladder, that's when I create the context to lift others. So integrate personal good to the larger good in whatever you do. It seems Samuel, a very ardent Christian, but somehow never believed in going to the church. He always believed, I express my love to the Creator by caring for the creation. So serving people is serving God, and he used to always be there for people. And it seems one day an angel came and asked Samuel, can you tell me where are the houses of Peter, James and Mary? Samuel said, this is where Peter lives, this is where Mary lives, and that's where James lives. But why are you asking me this? And it seems the angel said, these are people who love God and I have brought gifts for them. Samuel said, then my name must be there in the list. Please check. How much ever they checked, his name was not there in the list. So the angel said, sorry, your name is not there in the list. And the angel disappeared. For some time Samuel was disturbed. Just because I do not go to the church doesn't mean I do not love my Christ. How can this happen? But anyhow, the next day the sun did rise, and the good human being that he is, he went back to serve people. And as he was serving somebody, the angel appeared again. Samuel was indifferent. You can't come every day and ask for addresses. I'm not your GPS system. But however, the angel, with a lot of warmth, touched Samuel and told Samuel, yesterday I brought a list of people who love God, and yes, your name was not there in the list. Today, I brought a list of people whom God loves, and your name tops the list. When you love God, you only love God. When you love people, God loves you. Bring in that love to everything that you do. See yourself as an evangelist in the profession of medicine, and not just as a doctor. Let there be love in your eyes. Let there be warmth in your touch. Let there be empathy in the tone of your voice. Let your body language somehow communicate to everybody who comes to you. In those moments, you are divine representation to them. Somewhere, everything about you, let it communicate to people, I'm there for you. I will take care. I will do the best that I can do. Integrate your personal good to the larger good in everything that you do. And 7, see yourself as an instrument of a higher force. Somewhere ensure that at no stage you forget. I know, coming from the background of science, for some of you to embrace faith is not going to be an easy thing. It's going to be a challenge. But there's absolutely no question about it. The more and more you see yourself as an instrument of a higher force, there is sheer freedom in the way you operate. When my mother was fighting for life in Apollo, and one of the most respected cardio-physicians in the country, honorary physician to the President of India, and every day I used to see him walk towards one of the altar of God, bow down to it, and then go inside. So one of those days when we were sitting together, I asked him, I can understand all of them believing in God. You are a scientist. You know everything inside even those who go to temple and pray for the return of their mother, finally come and trust the doctor saying that you only have to save my mother's life. So why do you go and pray every day? And he said, my best friend used to live opposite house across the road. And one day her son called me and said, I think my mother has had a heart attack. Can you come and do something about it? I ran to the house in the middle of the night. I was holding my best friend in my arms. Even if she was dying about any other organ failure, it's okay. The one I'm supposed to be the best at. And in that, I know she was collapsing. Her son and daughter-in-law did not have a child for 13 years. And right now the daughter-in-law was pregnant and the child was expected in another 15 days' time. She said, this is what I waited all through my life. Just keep me alive for some more time. I want to see my grandchild before I die. Except crying in that moment, I couldn't do anything because I knew she was dying and I knew the time has passed. And she collapsed. I did not return to Apollo for the next few days. I was devastated emotionally. Then the senior management of Apollo came and said, you've let your friend go. By not taking care of others, you're letting a lot of others go. Will your friend appreciate it? Come back to work. So next day, I returned back to Apollo. I have not even noticed this altar of God ever before. I used to just walk past that. But somehow next day, because of whatever happened in my life, I helplessly went in front of the altar. Ego-shattering it was for a scientist like me, but I did whisper, you made me realize it's thy will that will be done. Inshallah, it can happen. Not otherwise. As Krishna would tell Arjuna, Arjuna, this thumb of yours cannot move without my sanction. So where is the question of you feeling, I did it. Arjuna, I am doing everything through you. You are just my instrument, Krishna used to say. And this great cardio-physician said, I stood in front of the altar. Ego-shattering it was, but still I prayed. I know, unless you decide, I will not be able to save a life. And my prayer from that day to today is, my Lord, please save a few more lives through me. With the 7 principles, I'll expect more from myself. I'll align myself to the highest work ethic. I'll back it up with relentless, intelligent effort. I will see success as motivation gained and will not allow it to feed my ego. I will see setbacks as maturity gained and will not be devastated by seeing it as a failure. I will integrate the personal good to the larger good. And with a prayer, my Lord, let a lot more people in the world see this world better by you using all of them as your instruments. And again releasing a thought, let there be so much abundance in the world. Not a single good idea should ever die for want of funds. And together, I believe we can build a very beautiful world. Thank you for giving me this privilege to be in front of all of you. Loving you all so much. Thank you. Thank you.